Okay, welcome back, everybody. This is Brizer here on the Graham Hart Show with Brizer, and our special guest tonight, Frank Raymond, living in Vancouver, Canada, originally from India, author of a fantastic book, folks, Sweet Dreams and Terror Cells. I have the book myself. It was a great read.
Which they can buy from Amazon.com.
Yeah, while it's still there, folks, because you know what Amazon are like these days. They're banning, censoring everything now on there, so get it while you still can. Frank, what will happen if they do take it off Amazon? What would you do?
I will find another publisher.
Good man.
I know.
Great stuff. So anyway, Frank, let's continue where you were going.
Yeah. Now let's continue on the matter of this gross domestic product, why they say they need to grow the economy and grow it basically by growing the population. The only thing that's important is GDP. Does America have a higher GDP than China? If it doesn't, they're falling behind. They're facing a great threat. They're no longer a superpower. This GDP. So now let's go to the subject that people are talking about, the flatulence of cows. That cows everywhere are flatulent. They fart, and that is affecting the environment. That is affecting the atmosphere. It is affecting the carbon levels in the atmosphere. It's affecting the climate.
We're all going to die in 10 years, Frank, according to Greta. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sure. She says so, today in Canada, we have a prime minister whose highest qualification is that he was a dance and ski instructor, I believe. A ski instructor for sure. That was what he was, a ski instructor and a dramatics teacher or something like that, and now he's the leader of a country, and you have a 16-year-old girl now who tells us how to run our lives. These are the geniuses of our time, people without experience, people without knowledge, people who have never really suffered. But anyway, talking about these cow flatulence and cow farts, apparently that's a big problem. It's affecting the ozone layer, it's affecting carbon, and we should stop eating meat and eat more vegetables. That's all very good, and I'm not saying that this is unsound. I'm not saying that. But then that's the problem with increasing GDP. You increase cow farts. More people, they're going to have more cows and sheep, and those animals are going to fart, people are going to fart. So instead of saying GDP, why not say GDFV? Gross domestic fart volume.
Very good. Very good. I love it.
So when they say we need economy, we need immigration to grow the economy and increase our GDP, your answer would be, yes, we need immigration to increase the GDFV. We need immigration for the gross domestic fart volume to grow.
And we'll all be happy then, Frank, won't we? Everything will be rosy in the morning. It'll be great.
So, the other thing they'll tell you, and once again, common sense. You have to use your common sense and see the obvious. They say, we need to be competitive. So we need to import the best people in order to be competitive.
They love that word, Frank. They love that word, competitive.
Yeah. We can't compete in this modern global economy without being competitive. We have to compete. We need to import the best talent. We have to attract the best students. We have to have the best apple pickers, the best computer scientists. But is that the point, to compete? That is not the basis of prosperity. The basis of prosperity is a huge territory, a large amount of land, a fertile land, for the land to be fertile so it can grow apples and wheat and potatoes for your kids, to have a good ratio of people to land, so that for every person there's at least 100 acres of arable land. That's the basis of prosperity. Another basis is because if it's a huge land, it's likely we'll have a lot of minerals under it. All those good things, tungsten, vanadium, titanium, and of course, the basis of prosperity is to then have a harmonious society, a society that is civic, has civic sense, can work together, can organize. And organization is very important. You know how the Germans organize? They make a factory, it's so beautifully laid out, very efficient, very sensible. Their textile factories are just amazing to look at. It's organization. These are the basis of prosperity. Competition is not the basis. Now, why would you want to throw away the basis of prosperity? America has already has a huge territory, a lot of fertile land everywhere, a lot of steel under the ground, a lot of steel and coal. That's what fired the American industrial expansion of the 1920s. Now, you said to compete, we're going to throw it all away. We're going to import people, and that'll somehow make us competitive. That's a myth. It's a load of rubbish. Let us take care of the basics of an economy first. Fewer people so that they'll have more of everything, and fewer people will make less pollution. The air will be clean, because products are not everything. Refrigerators and washing machines are not everything. Quality of life is everything. And quality of life means clean air, clean rivers, rivers full of fish, not poisoned ones. It means vast fields on which you can go for a gallop. It means privacy, so every family has a large plot of land and will have privacy. Today, we have people living in the cities in little cubicles, and they have no privacy. Every time they have a quarrel, someone can hear it. A couple is making love, people can hear it from across a thin wooden wall. That is a loss of dignity. So forget this talk about we have to compete, and to compete we have to bring in people. Let's take care of the basics first and not ruin them with immigration.
Yeah, indeed.
And finally, there's this big myth that the immigrants contribute to the economy. They're contributing.
Yes.
We have this fellow called Beto O'Rourke in America who says that these Latinos, these mestizos are so talented and they're contributing. They're contributing mightily. Well, I've said it before, but I'll say it again. If I want to contribute to the Cancer Society, I take $5 out of my pocket and give it to the Cancer Society. I will lose $5, they will gain $5. That is the basic form of contribution. These mestizos coming into America and these Nigerians coming into Ireland aren't contributing anything out of their pockets. I don't see any contribution. In fact, they won't contribute 1 pound, 1 kilo of copper or of aluminum from their country. You have to pay for it. For all you say, we're all the human race. But they're not contributing. What they're doing is they're coming in, creating jobs for themselves, working, and taking home their wages. They're not contributing money out of their wages to anybody. They're working for themselves. And when they work for themselves in your territory, in Ireland or Belfast or Somerset, they are making you poorer. They're burdening the soil. They are polluting the water. Everybody has less water, A lot of Americans and Canadians don't realize the value of water right now. They're not metered. If they went to India, they'd find that every house has a meter for water, and you have to pay for every liter of water that you use. But when these people come in a mass colonization, that plentiful water will no longer be plentiful. It will be rationed, and you have to pay for it. Far from contributing, they're taking the resources, the products of the soil. They're taking the resources, the minerals. They are taking space. Far from contributing, they're diminishing what you have. Mm-hmm. And that is, of course, what's happened. Things were a lot, for the average white in any of these countries, they were more prosperous 60 years ago. Yeah. Today they're less prosperous, and they're deeper in debt. I believe that an average British citizen is born into 40,000 pounds of debt, meaning that the national debt, if divided by the population, each person would have to pay 40,000 pounds just to pay off the national debt. Is that what the contributions have done to you?
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is also, Frank, is, okay, the so-called immigrants, as we call them, invaders or colonizers or planters that are coming in, yeah, some of them are working, and they're working in restaurants or, doing what we would say kind of menial type jobs, right? but the vast majority of them are on welfare. And we're seeing it here in Ireland in particular, where they are getting preferential treatment when it comes to housing and things like that. Now, we have a big homeless crisis in this country, which we never had before. And it's all white people. You can walk down the streets of Dublin and you'll see people sleeping in doorways and whatever, shop doorways. And they're all our own people. While the immigrants, again, the colonizers coming in, are being put up in hotels. They're getting 3 meals a day. They got a warm room, everything they need, and they're getting 30 euros a week pocket money, and they're still complaining. They're still complaining. So as you say, we are not better off, because how much is that costing? And I'm telling you, it must be in the billions. It has to be now.
Well, I have every sympathy and every agreement with you on that the present sneak ruler regime has perverted society and government to serve the alien and destroy the white. I agree with you on that. But having said that, even if these people did not take 1 cent of welfare, they would still be harmful to your economy, to your future, to your identity, and your culture. Talking about the economy, even if none of them took welfare, it would still be a loss to you economically, because there's more people on the land consuming scarce resources. You are already overpopulated, okay? And of course, these are alien people who are distinctly will pose a threat already to your culture and the very look of your pubs, you know. Mm-hmm. But I don't want to go there. But the point is, it's not a contribution. None of them contribute. They are, in fact, taking a share of the national wealth, of the national resources, of the national space, and polluting the national air and water. None of them has contributed. A contribution is like charity. You take it out of your pocket, you give it to the other person, you are that much poorer. That's a contribution. So when someone says, these immigrants are contributing mightily to the economy, your common sense should say, what contribution?
Yeah. Mm.
Okay? Now, there is a form of contribution. There is one that is not charity. And you take someone like Thomas Edison, who invented the light bulb. If you count up the amount of food he ate in his lifetime and the amount of aluminum cans that he consumed, piled up all those cans, and you piled up all the clothing that he used, and then you compare it to what he did, what he gave in terms of inventing the light bulb, you would say that he probably gave 200 times more or 2,000 times more than he consumed. Because that was Edison, the inventor of the light bulb.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
That amounts to a contribution. It's a net contribution in the sense that in the net, he produced far more or added far more than he consumed. Mm-hmm. Now, among all these millions of invaders, I don't see too many Edisons making that form of contribution. None of them has invented electricity. So, again, you should ask, what the hell are they contributing? And if they were such great contributors, why don't they fix their own countries? Why is it that their own countries are failed states, stagnant economies, and non-achieving civilizations? If they're such great contributors, let them contribute in their own country.
Yeah. But why is that, you think, Frank? Why is it Africa, for example, which should be the richest continent on the planet, with all the natural resources, it's got the weather, it's got all of that, and it's got plenty of people as well. Why shouldn't that country be top of the pile, really?
Oh, well.
Why, like Nigeria, for example, has got all the oil and all the rest of it, and yet there's millions of them coming into Europe?
Well, this matter of genetics and race primarily, that some races have the civic sense that, say, the Swedes, I've seen them go into restaurants, McDonald's, for example, or similar restaurants, taking their own cutlery with them so that they will not use plastic spoons and forks, which will degrade the environment and deplete resources. They take their own knives and forks with them.
Right.
No, I'll give you an example from my own observations here in Vancouver. We have big malls, shopping centers, and each shopping center has a big food court. Now, I often eat at the food court and I sit and watch. In the main, the whites, they clean up their table after themselves. Whatever plastic or polystyrene plates they've used, the napkins, they usually wipe the table, take their stuff, and they take it to the disposal area. They leave a clean table. Mm-hmm. Whereas I see the Africans, the Ethiopians and Somalis, they leave their crap on the table. They leave their used plates with the food and the used polystyrene glasses with the coffee left in it, and they just walk away. Then I can't sit at that table because there's somebody else's stuff littered on the table, and I don't like the look of it, and I'm not going to clean it up for them. No. So I can't sit there, and that table lies idle until a food court worker goes and cleans it up. Now, here's the difference in attitude. The white is universal in outlook. He looks beyond the self and looks to his surroundings, to other people, to the other animals, to the environment. And these people are self-oriented. They don't look at how it affects other people. They don't care for other people so much. The white is more universal, has a universe outlook, looking to the outside. And as one aspect of that, he wants to save the whales and he wants to keep the neighborhood clean. Here in Vancouver, sometimes you'll see a white person coming out and sweeping the street and picking up the garbage without any pay. They just do it because they want their street to be clean. You'll never see a colored person doing that. Okay? Mm-hmm. This is the universal outlook of the white, and it leads them to be less corrupt and to be more socially responsible. So white countries are more orderly, safe, and prosperous. There are many bad white people, there are corrupt white people, but I'm talking about averages. And the Africans, they've always been more selfish. So your Nigerian may have a lot of oil, but he's also very corrupt. And I believe that the Nigerian State Oil Corporation loses a fantastic percentage in theft and corruption. Yeah. Look at Venezuela. They should be the richest country on earth. They have silver, gold, uranium, copper, just about everything. Mm-hmm. And yet they're now starving. So resources alone cannot do it. Resources are very important. They are the basis of prosperity. But resources alone cannot do it. The people have to be capable of utilizing, sharing, and developing those resources.
Yeah. Yeah, basically running an economy properly and efficiently, but they just don't know how to do that. That seems to be the problem. Now, if we can get people to do that in their own countries, then we wouldn't have a problem with them coming over here. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I think countries should maintain their ethnic identity because it will be lost. I don't want to discuss this here because in my book I have discussed how some people go to a community center, white people, and they sing their folk songs, and they feel a sense of warmth and a communion of hearts. Yeah. You see a vision of Danny Boy and the meadow in the spring and the meadow in the winters and it's hushed with snow. They feel a sense of companionship. But if a Nigerian were to walk into that assembly with his Nigerian face and his Nigerian body, it would tarnish the whole thing. It would blemish the whole thing. They would no longer feel. They'd feel there's a disturbing influence here. And that sense of communion, of sharing of hearts would be ruined. What? So the economy is not everything. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, Frank, you've just gone away from the microphone a little bit there. I mean, we can still hear you, but you just kind of went off, you kind of went into a distance or something there. But
okay, how about now?
Oh yeah, that's a lot better. That's
better.
Yeah.
Okay. But, now let's talk about what you said. Taxes.
Yeah.
These immigrants come in and they pay taxes and they contribute to and they augment the tax base. Well, that's a silly thing to say. If there's 10 people in a room, they pay their taxes, they put their share in. If there's 20 people, they'll put their share in. But they also use up whatever you put into your taxes, you use it up. So yeah, immigrants come in, they pay taxes, but they take benefits. The streets are cleaned, the parks are maintained, and how does that help anybody? If there were today in Ireland, you might have what's your population?
Between north and south, about 5 million, maybe 5.5.
Okay, so 5.5 million people, and they're paying taxes. So you bring in 20 million immigrants, and they'll pay taxes. But wouldn't they be using up those taxes?
Of course they would, yeah.
So, they make these arguments that are just so silly that I would say just exercise your native common sense. Mm-hmm. I'm reminded of a BBC program in which they were talking about immigration and what it does. And this Indian man who was a doctor, he'd probably come into the country from 5 years ago. He's a doctor, he earns a good living. And he spoke up and said that I'm an immigrant, yes, and I pay my taxes. I pay a big amount of tax. I'm a doctor, I pay a big amount of tax. So I'm paying into the system. I'm contributing to the system. There you see that word contribution coming in? Mm-hmm. I'm contributing to the system, so I resent it when people say you don't belong or you're a burden on us or we don't want you here. Mm-hmm. Sure, he's paying taxes, but he's getting the benefit of the taxes. Doesn't he drive on the motorways? Doesn't he call on the police when he has a problem?
Yeah, indeed.
So that's another thing that you should watch out for when, and once again, it's native common sense. Just see the obvious and object to it at once.
Exactly. Now, we'll, as I said just after the break, that we'll talk a little bit about race mixing, because this is another thing that we're seeing a lot. This is heavily promoted throughout Western European countries, white countries. You're particularly seeing it on TV with the ads and whatever. And we're just going to play a clip which was on BBC back in the 70s. It was the Michael Parkinson show, where he's interviewing Muhammad Ali. And I'm sure a lot of people have heard this, but I think it's very apt to put this one in because, here's a black man, proud of who he is, of his own people and all the rest of it. And he's a great boxer. I always had great admiration for Muhammad Ali. He's a good guy. And I just loved what he had to say here. So, Graham, if you want to play this one, and it's only about 3 minutes or so, and we'll be back with Frank after this.
Black people must do something for themselves and not always beg white people to move in their neighborhoods, but clean their own neighborhoods. And another thing, when you say integration, it comes under intermarriage too, right? All right, being together.
Right, sure.
And I'm sure no intelligent white person watching this show, or no intelligent white man in his or her right white mind, want black boys and black girls marrying their white sons and daughters, and in return introducing their grandchildren as half-brown, kinky-haired black people.
I wouldn't object to that.
Well, you wouldn't, but a lot of them would.
Well, I'm sure a lot of people would. No, this is the point.
What I'm trying to say is this. And you don't have it. You say you don't, but you don't have it. You really ain't going to have it. You on the show, and you got to say that. But
that's not true.
Why would you want to do that?
Because I don't think I'm any different from you see.
We much different.
I think society's made us different.
You know we're different. And we're all together.
But society's made us different.
No, not society. God made us different.
No, we're just human beings. He made all of us.
We all, listen, bluebirds fly with bluebirds. Red birds want to be with red birds. Listen. Tell me when I'm wrong. Pigeons want to be with pigeons.
But
tell me when I'm wrong. We should have more. They don't have intelligence, but yet they stay together. We should have more intelligence than them, right? Buzzards are with buzzards. Buzzards are with buzzards. Bluebirds are with bluebirds. They all are birds, but they got different cultures. The eagles like to hang out in the mountains. The buzzard like to fly around the desert.
Well,
the bluebird like to fly around the trees and the grass.
There'd be certain problems, a buzzard mating with a sparrow, wouldn't there?
What?
There'd be certain...
Right. And we have the problems too. No, I don't see no black and white couples in England or America walking around proud holding their children.
That's because society...
And going out.
That's society's fault. We've got to educate people around it.
Well, life is too short for me to be raised catching hell for something like that. I'd rather go and be my own. I have a beautiful daughter, beautiful wife. They look like me. We're all happy, and I don't have no trouble. I ain't no trouble. I ain't that much in love with no woman to go through all that hell. Ain't no one woman that good. You understand?
I understand. Yeah, I do understand. I understand. I think it's sad that
it ain't sad because I want my child to look like me. Every intelligent person wants his child to look like him. I'm sad because I want to blot out my race and lose my beautiful identity. Chinese love Chinese. They love the little slanted-eyed, pretty brown-skinned babies. Pakistanis love their culture. Jewish people love their culture. A lot of Catholics don't want to marry a number of Catholics. They want the religion to stay the same. Who want to spot up yourself and kill your race? You a hater of your people if you don't want to stay who you are. You shame what God made you. God didn't make no mistake when he made us all like we were.
I think that's a philosophy of despair.
Despair.
I really do.
It ain't no despair. Number one, can't no woman. Let me tell you something. I want to tell you. Listen, no woman on this whole earth, not even a black woman in Muslim countries, can please me and cook for me and socialize and talk to me like my American black woman. No woman, at last, is a white woman, can really identify with me and my feelings and the way I act and the way I talk. And you can't take no Chinese man and give him no Puerto Rican woman and holler about we're in love and you emotionally in love and physically, but really they're not happy because she's going to hear some Puerto Rican music, he's going to hear some Chinese music. And they're going to be clashing all the time. It's just nature. You can do what you want, but it's nature to want to be with your own. I want to be with my own. I love my people. That's all. I don't hate nobody.
Okay, as I said, I'm sure a lot of you have heard that one, but that's fantastic, isn't it? I mean, Frank, this is what you're doing. You're Indian, and you're just basically saying it to us white folks: get a grip, sort yourselves out here.
Well, I would add to Muhammad Ali that life, the very principle of life, is something changes. The amoeba changed. And then the changed ones, they kept to themselves. They segregated themselves from the other amoeba. And that changed, that new variant, that evolved variant, became a distinct life form. The change, the genetic change, and then the separation, the segregation of the new group, that is the very basis of life. That is what gave rise to the biodiversity. The great biodiversity on this planet. So I would not like to see that forward movement of biodiversity be ruined. We need to see more forking out, more specialization, not the mixing of species and subspecies. That's basically what Muhammad Ali was saying there.
Yeah. And do you see yourself among other, say, ethnic minorities or in white countries that they feel the same as you, Frank?
Well, what they feel mainly is let's bring in more of our people and colonize the land.
Yeah, but there might be a few people though that have a different thing, and because I think in Britain now, because there's been a lot of blacks and Asians who've come in there, been there for 30 years, 40 years. And they're against the mass immigration coming in because they realize that if you bring in more, their lives are going to be under threat as well.
Well, there are Latinos and mestizos in the United States who think that we've come into this train carriage and it's quite okay now, but if more people come into the train carriage, it'll be a hell of a bad journey.
Yeah.
In the main, in Canada certainly, and in America for sure, the ethnics vote for MPs and legislators who will allow mass immigration to get more of their people in. I guarantee you that. Anyway, I wanted to go on to the third point.
Yeah, go on to the third point, indeed.
The third principle, and we don't have much time, so...
Yeah, we've got another 25 minutes, Frank, so off you go. No problem.
The basic reason why white people are in this condition is that the sneak rulers have mind-raped them to worship the superior alien, to despise their own race, and to destroy it, while at the same time worship the alien and serve the alien. Now that's what really drives immigration, and that's why they accept the lies. I talked about seeing the obvious, seeing the ridiculous, seeing the absurd, calling it out, but they don't call it out not because they're lacking in intelligence or reason. It's because the mind control has programmed their emotions. They have their emotions have been perverted, and emotional impulses get in the way of their clear thinking. And I'm going to give you two examples right from my life. People I've spoken to directly, and I have a good talent for chatting up people, complete strangers. Talk about immigration and race, even the stranger will talk to you. Now, I'd heard that the British school system has completely emasculated and brainwashed young British people, but I never quite appreciated it until I talked to this man 2 years ago at a food court in Vancouver city center. And he was an intelligent, educated man, cultured man, and he was about 32 years old. And I asked about the immigration into Britain. I said, it's an overcrowded island and you've got so many people. Why do you continue this immigration? And he started gushing. This British man started gushing and saying, but we have a great thing going in Britain. We have all these new ideas. And new ideas are bringing out new business startups and entrepreneurship. And I come to Canada and sometimes I think I'm 20 years behind. In Britain, we are producing all these new things, and our computer software and applications are so much better. It's all these new ideas. I said I was talking about people coming in, immigration. I was talking about people from India and the Caribbean coming into Britain. He said, but you need new ideas, he said. And, with these new ideas, we're going places. He could not distinguish between the two. And I wondered why. I said, but I'm talking about people. There's a Bangladeshi community in London, a big one, and they have a huge neighborhood to themselves. Have they contributed any new ideas? Can you name one? Well, I might not be able to name one particular one, he says, but, all in general, we need new ideas to have a vibrant, competitive economy. Although, for God's sake, the Japanese have a very good economy. They don't have any immigrants. And he said, oh, look at Japan, completely ossified, aging population, old people, no new ideas. I said, they're less in debt than you are. The average Englishman is in deep debt. Your country's in debt. And he replies, but we're in a position to repay that debt whenever we feel like it. I said, oh, yeah? And you haven't repaid it in the last 40 years. You're just sinking deeper. What makes you think that? So finally, I told him that, why is it you can't distinguish between people and ideas? You say you need immigrants to have new ideas. Now, look at it. Before you had any mass immigration of third world peoples, you had Isaac Newton inventing the principle of gravity. He invented calculus. Two people, Isaac Newton, the Englishman, and Leibniz, a German, invented calculus at the same time. I said you had an industrial revolution. You invented the Bessemer converter, the steam engine, the railroad. You got all these new ideas without any immigration, without any great aliens, superior aliens to do it. And then, after the Second World War, you had mass immigration. You've got not a single new invention. You can't design a car that can compete on the world market. You can't develop ideas that would make electronics cheaply and sell on the world market. Where do you get this idea that immigration produces new ideas? But he couldn't quite get over it. To him, immigration meant new ideas and vitality and vibrancy. So I said, name me one great new idea that you British have had since mass immigration. And he said, well, maybe we haven't invented the steam engine, but we've got various small little things going on that add up to a critical mass. I said, you know what, your country is poorer now than it ever was. You've got whole areas of London that are slumified. I don't know where you're getting this from. So there you see it, the man's ossified. His brain stuck in a certain groove. And even when I tell him that you haven't had any new ideas from immigrants, he thinks that they're vital. Immigrants are vital. Where does this come from? I'll tell you where it comes from. He thinks his own people are inferior scum. Lacking in intelligence, lacking in vibrancy. The alien is superior.
But why do people think that, Frank? You see, why do people think that? Is it just brain? Is it guilt? Is it
nothing to do with? It's nothing to do with guilt. the Hollywood movies, they show the alien to be superior and the white to be an inept, no good bugger. The advertisements show it.
Yeah.
But that's what he thought. It sprang from that idea that we are no good. We need immigrants to save our very lives, you know. We need immigrants for everything, otherwise we ourselves can't do it.
Yeah.
We got to have immigration. Now, I'll give you a second anecdote. There's this neighborhood close to me where they completely demolished a whole section, a shopping area, parking lot, and a little park. They demolished it all and they've rebuilt it. And they built big restaurants there instead of small ones, really large-sized mega restaurants. And they built a 45-story high-rise. It's still going up, this 45-story high-rise, which means the skyline is further blocked. This whole area, which was once green and pleasant, is now an urban slum, neon and concrete. And where the highest building was once 3 stories, now you have at least 40 high-rises, and each high-rise is about 40 stories to 45 stories. In fact, the whole area is slumified. This development was the last in the series, and there's this high-rise going up with its immense girders and steel and concrete. And I saw this woman, an Anglo-Canadian woman, standing there looking at it with a look of admiration. But I could see it was a false look. It's the look of someone saying, oh, this is great, I like it. It's nice, but deep inside it's not. They're telling themselves it's nice. They're reassuring. And in her look, I could also see a kind of an invitation, talk to me. So I knew exactly what's going on. I said, here's a liberal woman, educated and brainwashed to despise her own race. And she is telling herself against her better instincts that is good, that this is good for her, good for her people, good for the city, good for mankind. So I said, yes, the destruction of our city grows apace. They're slumifying the whole thing. No, but this was all dirty and disgusting before. Now it's all clean and gleaming. I said, it is. Look around you. Look at all those ugly high-rises blocking the skyline. Look at the pollution they're breeding. Look at the dirt on Kingsway nearby. And look at the immense traffic. And here's a high-rise going up which will house another, say, 1,000 people to increase to the traffic, the gridlock, the pollution. You say that's a good thing?
Yeah.
And then she says, then her face lights up and she's in a sense missionary mode, and she says, but we have to welcome all the new Canadians that are coming in. We have to welcome the new Canadians. I said, and who are these new Canadians?
New Canadians, yeah. We have that term here, the new Irish.
Yeah. We have to welcome all these new Canadians, don't we? I said, you do? Who are these new Canadians? People from China, mainly? So why are you welcoming them? Because that's the future. Because that's, how we'll, blah, blah, blah. That's the future. That's good. That's great. I said, how is that good or great to produce? Why do you want to welcome them? What have they done for you? Well, they're going to produce the goods and they're going to do everything and, all this kind of stuff. And finally, I said, why can't you? Why are you a worthless people? Are you saying white Canadians are worthless? They can't produce their own fruits and their own berries and their own products, their own furniture, and they can't build their own houses. You need Chinese and Koreans and, Congolese to do it for you. You have to welcome them to do it for you. Is that what you're saying? White Canadians are useless? Mm-hmm. She said, well, I didn't say that. I said, well, you've implied it. The fact is we're not having enough babies, she said. We are not replacing our population. And so, we have an aging population, we need to replace them. I said, that's a lie. Because if your population was dying, you wouldn't need new housing, would you? The existing housing would do it. If the population was decreasing, they'd just move into, someone dies, somebody else moves into their house or apartment. Instead, we are building frantically, obviously, it's to increase the population.
Yeah.
You can't believe that, the population is dying, it needs replacing. We are not having enough babies. So finally, I kind of cornered her. I said, wait a minute. You're saying white people don't have enough babies, that's why we must have immigration. Okay. Suppose I were to propose tomorrow, let's have a government program, and also helped by private contributions and foundations, to increase the birth rate of whites. You're saying white people are no good, they can't even make their own babies. Let's have a program to do that. Would you support it? She thinks she's really on her heels now. She rocks back a bit and says, no, I wouldn't support it. I said, I see. White people aren't having enough babies. She said, look, I understand all this. I know it. People think that we liberals are stupid. She called herself a globalist, by the way. She said, I'm a globalist.
Oh, well, there you go. In other words, a commie, more or less, isn't she? She agrees with that kind of...
Well, she looked a very amiable, civilized sort to be a commie. Didn't look like Mao Zedong. She looked like...
Yeah, but they like that. They like to be edgy. Edgy is a commie these days. If you're edgy, you're a commie.
Yeah, she said, I'm a globalist, and I believe in a global future. And I said, okay, I understood all that. But she said, I realize people think we are stupid. We are not. We globalists, we understand that there will be no white population. There will be no white race in Canada soon. One generation, at the most two. But after that, there will be no white people left. We know that, but we are looking forward to the future. So I said, well, so what's wrong with having a program to increase white births? Give them incentives, give them propaganda. What's wrong with that? No, I wouldn't stand for it. It's too Nazi, she says. That's a Nazi idea.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Yeah.
So I summed it up for her. I said, you are absolutely willing to see the death of your own race. You want to pollute, overcrowd, and slumify the cities of Canada to welcome these aliens. And you don't see your own race living to enjoy that prosperity. So what the hell are you replacing the population for? For whom? I said, you know what? I think you have to admit something. And she said, what? I said, you have to admit that you've been mentally raped to despise your own people and to worship the foreigner and to serve the foreigner. In fact, several times in this conversation, you've expressed a desire to serve the foreigner. She said, well, I'm a globalist and we believe that immigrants have more energy. They're younger and they have a lot more energy. I said, well, why not have immigrants from Britain then? Britain's an overcrowded country. Why not just stop all the colored immigration and bring in people from Britain and France, the mother countries? Oh, that would be racist. I said, okay. I said, I want you to admit something. And she says, what? I said, I want you to admit you're a bum sucker. You're a bum sucker. You want to suck the bum of every alien that walks before you. I said, do you admit that you're a bum sucker? She said, well, I'm not a xenophobe. I said, xeno means alien, outsider, foreign. A xenophobe has an irrational fear of the foreign. You're a xeno bum sucker. You have an irrational desire to suck alien bum.
Yeah.
Now that woman will accept all the stuff about replacing the dying population, about growing the economy, because she basically wants foreigners to replace her people. And that is a major problem.
Now it all comes back to why, though. Why, Frank, would we want that? I mean, it doesn't make sense.
Well, it does.
And there's no logic, there's no reason behind any of this. Well, and I think that, as you said, I think they're just being so brainwashed that they can't see the obvious right in front of their face that they're going to be wiped out.
They don't mind. They don't mind. She's saying.
So is this some kind of a death wish or something of the white people, or what is it?
Well, it's a death wish, but if you were to... Okay, first of all, I do have a YouTube channel. It's called When Giants Break the Spell.
Okay.
When Giants Break the Spell. On that YouTube channel, I have a show with Georgia, whom you interviewed, Georgia Peach.
Georgia Peach, yeah, great lady. I think she's listening tonight, so hello, Georgia.
So in this show is called The Mind Masters. And we talk about, and on the cover I put in, are you aware of the Mind Masters? And we discuss the Mind Masters of Hollywood and Madison Avenue, how they have programmed white people to feel inferior and to worship the alien. So that is a separate topic, but anyone interested should go to my channel and listen to that, how I say that these are the movies and this is how they do it. In addition, my book details several movies. Yeah, it's mainly movies. My book details several movies which specifically program whites to despise themselves. They do it under the guise of entertainment, but they do it. Now, the point about it is that therefore they will say the most lunatic things about immigration because deep under, they just want to serve the alien and to hand over everything to the alien. Now, this is underlying a lot of the debate on immigration. For example, if you turn on the BBC and listen to one of their shows on it, someone will say, surely, but we need to have the best talent. We must have the best talent from around the world in order to be competitive. We need smart computer engineers. We need smart cybernetics people. Well, the common sense is, well, countries throughout history, they have improved themselves. If they need an engineer, they build a university and they train an engineer. They train their own people. Japan doesn't import engineers. Korea does not import quantum physicists. They train them.
Exactly.
That why would a BBC man say that we have to import the best talent? Because he's underlying his thinking and underlying the thinking of his audiences, we are inferior, those Koreans are smarter.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, well, I interviewed a guy called Ryan Dawson. You might have heard of him. He's an American who lives in Japan. And I met him. He came over to Dublin and he told me that Japan has very, very strict immigration laws. And he says the reason why it is because if they did open it up, Japan would be Chinese within 5 years.
Well, they are doing what everyone else does, okay? Everyone but white countries.
But why is it that, this is what I'm saying, why do the Japanese won't accept this? The Koreans won't do it. Even the Chinese won't do it.
Well, the simple answer is that
India, in your country, in India as well, I mean, they wouldn't be bringing people in either.
The simple answer is that the sneak rulers came into white countries. They're an alien people, and they had this abiding hatred and desire to replace white people, so they mentally programmed white people. If the sneak rulers went into Japan and worked on them for 50 years, the Japanese would start thinking the same.
Mm-hmm.
You know, today you need a much more robust, vigorous mind and psychology to resist this new form of warfare. And I keep saying, you got to fix yourself first. You got to get a much more independent, inquiring, and instinctive mind. It is a deep instinct. Self-preservation is an instinct. Mm-hmm. You need to fight this new form of warfare. It's a very subtle one. The movies are extremely subtle. I urge you to watch a program called Star Trek Voyager. Mm-hmm. Very, very subtle forms of brainwashing of whites.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, you have an MP in Britain. Okay, I shouldn't say you. I said the British have an MP, a Muslim woman called Naz Shah.
Yeah.
Naz, N-A-Z, and then her last name is Shah, S-H-A-H. Mm-hmm. And she argues that we should not have any caps on migration. None at all. We should just have unlimited immigration. And in fact, you might want to listen to her on a YouTube video. The name of the YouTube video is, "We do not need a migration cap, urges Naz Shah, LBC." LBC is the name of the channel or the talk show.
Yeah. I know what you mean, yeah.
Now, this is the same Naz Shah who once said that white women who are raped by Muslims should just shut up in the interest of diversity. You know, in response to the rape of the women in
Rotherham and wherever, yeah. The child rape, not even women, children, yeah.
Yeah, so she said those women should just shut up in the interest of diversity. Just take the rape, Now, this Nazsha was saying in this interview that we need to attract the best students from around the world because, we exist in a big world and our prosperity depends on the world. We need to attract the best students. Now, why? If a student comes in and studies and leaves, why would you need to attract that person? He's not going to stay in your country. He may be a second Gauss being the German mathematical genius. This guy might be a kind of a Michelangelo, but if he comes in and leaves, why would you need to attract him? Obviously, because they never leave. The student visa program is really an immigration program. And that's why she's arguing to attract the best students. And then she says that foreign students added so many $1 million to the economy. Well, gee, you should not have a single foreign student because your schools and universities should be places where your children can learn about their literature, their history, and their culture, and add to that culture and become acculturated to their own history and heritage. Yeah. Foreign students, they completely ruin that. But a second point is, when British people get paid salaries to tutor foreign students, that's a rather silly thing. These people should be working in their own economy, growing potatoes, putting meat on the table, not teaching foreigners. That is a silly way to run an economy. But she wants to attract the best students. And she says that we need no cap on immigration because we need doctors, we need nurses, and so we need immigration. We don't have enough. The National Health Service is crying out for doctors. And in effect, we need immigration to have a vibrant economy. Now, as I pointed out to you, Nazsha is an enemy of your people. She is working for the replacement for her own people to flood into Britain. But why would you accept this garbage? Mm-hmm. Throughout history, people have improved themselves. They have invested, they have saved their money, invested, and that's how you improve your economy. You save your money and you invest in plant and machinery. You defer your gratification, you consume less roast beef, and you consume less movies. And instead of having a second car, you just live on one car, you defer your gratification, you invest those resources in new plant and machinery. You educate people to be smart engineers and doctors. It's so many people, 50 million people, or in Ireland, 5 million people. We are so many million people on this patch of land. We will organize ourselves to achieve the optimum output. That is the way people have always run their economies. That's how Japan does it today. That's how Korea does it today. That's how even little Singapore does it. Yeah. This is an insane idea that to develop our economy, we need immigration. Yeah. This is completely lunatic and insane. And you're accepting it. Why are you accepting it? Because deep inside, whites have been mind raped to say that we are worthless people. We cannot stand on our own feet. We need the almighty foreigner to come in and do all these things. Yeah. Yeah.
Frank, we've reached the 2-hour mark, but we can go over a little bit if you want. But just, I suppose, any closing thoughts for us? I really appreciate you coming on. It was a fantastic show. I mean, great, great observations, I have to say. I'll actually have to listen to this again just to kind of take it all in, you know. So any final thoughts, and plug whatever you need to plug for yourself. I mean, we put it in there, your book and your YouTube, but anything else, Frank? Closing thoughts. Thank you.
Closing thoughts. Whites should realize that they've been mind raped to be worthless, and when their neighbors and friends talk in these insane ways, point out to them, you have been trained to be a bumsucker. Stand up. Get some.
People are saying in the chat room, we should go 3 hours.
Find a sense of worth. You're the greatest people on earth. You're the most beautiful people. Your beauty is admired all over. Your people, when not brainwashed, they understand that certain races look ugly. They don't even want them in the same room. Yeah. You know, when they're not brainwashed, when they're freed from the fog. They're the highest achieving people in terms of civilization, advancement of technology. Every development of social living together, from the castle doctrine, which says a man's home is his castle, from the idea of democracy, from the idea of the legislative parliament. These have all come from white people and the white races. Why do you think you're worthless? Recognize the programming in the movies. Recognize the crap in, say, a movie like Yellow Rock, made sometime like 10 years ago. It was on Netflix. They show these wicked white men wanting to rape this mountainside, this territory inhabited by Indians, by native Indians, Red Indians. And the Red Indian lectures them and says, "You must not cut the veins of the mountain. It will, And these wicked white men do it, and guess who is helping, who's a victim along with the native Indians? It's a white woman. Mm-hmm. The white woman stands with the native Indian against the wicked white man. Now, these are racial movies. These are outright, straight up racial movies. And you have to reject them. You have to tell your people that these movies are poison. Yeah. They are poison being pumped into our minds.
Yeah, we just got to stand up and be proud to be racist, as in we love our own race and our own culture and our history. That's it.
Well, why not print a T-shirt saying racist and proud to be, I love my race. Do you have a problem with that?
Yeah.
Make a T-shirt.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, because they can't really answer that one. They'll get triggered and they go, oh yeah. But people need to hear it. People need to see the other side, and a bit of common sense, a bit of logic can break this whole spell completely. It's a spell.
I think the masses are now ready to hear it. And,
I think they are. Yeah, I think they are. I think they are now, because they're seeing that their countries are being destroyed, their history has been destroyed, a culture, everything that's unique to them. Each particular, say in Europe in particular, everything that's unique to each particular country in Europe is being totally destroyed. And we have to somehow get it back and be great again. We were great. We were a great culture. We built so much stuff. The scientists, the engineers, the philosophers, the poets, the writers, you name it. It all came from here.
Well, look at it this way. You had Shakespeare and Eliot, all these people. In literature, you had all the scientists from, I can't remember them now, but look at someone like Darwin, a towering genius like Darwin, who hit upon concepts as invisible and as difficult as evolution. And after you had mass immigration and multiculturalism, you have had no talent at all. Not a single great poem, not a single great book, not a single great scientific discovery. Mm. So, that is something you should point out to your liberal friends. Mm. And I think in closing, what I'd say is, you should say that we are not a worthless people. We white people are not a worthless people. You say we need immigration for this, for that. No, we're not a worthless people. We can stand on our own feet, and we'll do better on our own feet.
Mm. Indeed. Frank Raymond, thank you very much for coming on the show tonight. Again, wonderful observations. I know the chat room's hopping there tonight, so a lot of people enjoyed it. We'll have to get you back on again, Frank, at some point, a few months down the road or whatever.
Well,
if you're interested, I know you might be busy, but whenever.
But Brizer, I would like to express my appreciation to you for letting me speak. Mm-hmm. And I have to say that the work you're doing is great, and I hope you continue to do it for a long time.
I will continue to do it until my dying breath, Frank.
That's
important, right? And to be quite honest, Frank, I'm at this point now where I've taken a lot of shit down through the years. The banks are trying to come after me, trying to take my home and all the rest of it, and I fought back on that. I'm still here. I'll fight back. I've dug my heels into the ground. I've drawn the line in the sand, and I'm saying that's it, enough. No, I'm not going to allow my country to be taken over by invaders. No way. It's not going to happen. And they're going to have to put a bullet in my head, Frank. That's the way it is. That's the way I'm thinking now.
That's the spirit. Let's find 100 more like you, and we can save the race.
That's it. Okay, with that, folks, again, thank you again, Frank. Thanks again for listening, folks. And we'll be back to you again next week. at the same time. So tune in, and we'll see you then. Take care now.